But 1 month after Pahalgam, what has changed? What are the challenges in the hunt for terrorists? Will accountability be fixed for the Pahalgam lapses? Operation Sindoor, has Pakistan learnt its lessons? How has India fared on the diplomatic front? Let's try and get an overview today. Joining me now, Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, former GOC 15 Corps, former DGMO. I'm also joined by Kuldeep Khoda, former DGP Jammu and Kashmir, former intelligence chief also of the J&K police. Amitabh Mattu is Dean and Professor, School of International Relations, JNU, and someone who's tracked India, Pakistan and Kashmir for decades. And KC Singh, former Secretary MEA at the Government of India. I appreciate all of you joining us. I want to come to the first question, which is 30 days after Pahalgam, we have still not been able to find the terrorists responsible for it. Kuldeep Khoda, as someone who's been involved in anti-terror operations when you were on the ground as DGP J&K and a former intelligence chief, how do you see that? Could the terrorists have actually escaped and crossed the LOC, or do you believe that we are closing in on them?
Rajdeep, our security forces, including the J&K police, have an excellent record of dealing with the terrorists who have been involved in similar incidents in the past. And it's a matter of time that they'll be either captured or eliminated. In most of the cases, they usually get eliminated because they get caught in some situation where they get neutralized. So
you don't think that they have crossed over? You don't think that they have managed in these 30 days to cross over? You're reasonably confident that they are still in the Kashmir Valley?
Considering the area where they operated, the Viceroy area of Pahalgam, it's not very easy for them to manage crossover, especially when the security forces along the border are quite alert. They are in the border was active. It is still sort of active. It will be very difficult for them to cross over, and especially after 22nd April, lots of operations have been launched all over, including Kishtwar, Bhadrwah, which has resulted in 2 operations, including one today also, where 2 terrorists got killed in Kishtwar and we lost 1 army jawan also. And there was an encounter in which 3 Jaish terrorists were killed in Pulwama also. Post Pahalgam, 7 terrorists have been eliminated of both LET and Jaish. So it's a matter of time when they'll be got. In the past also it has happened. Similar thing happened when Pulwama occurred in 2019. There was lots of queries why they are not getting eliminated or captured. The investigation was carried out by NIA. 19 people the 19 terrorists were identified. 7 of them, including the one who was suicide bomber, got eliminated in various encounters. 7 got arrested, and 5 probably they have either crossed over or they have died as unknown terrorists in different encounters. So it is not that the terrorists don't get caught. Average life of a terrorist is about 6 months to 1 year. In fact, 65% of the terrorists, that is the track record of our survey which we have carried out, 65% of the terrorists get killed within 1 year. So, and some of them have slightly more time period, some have slightly less. So we should not be despondent that they'll not.
So you're saying don't be despondent by the fact that 1 month has gone and the terrorists have still not been tracked down. Okay, that's one question that I want to raise. I also want to raise questions concerning our military operations. General Bhatt, do you believe that our military operations have succeeded in ensuring that, as the Prime Minister claimed today, that we have sent out a tough enough message to terrorists? Or do you believe that, on the other hand, it has actually given the Pakistani army leadership a fresh lease of life? You've got the general who calling himself now a field marshal. So Pakistan is claiming victory in a way.
Okay, I'll answer both of your questions. But before that, the question you put to the DGP, let me assure you, we'll get the terrorists. Few days, few weeks, few months, and if at all, they happen to go to Pakistan, a few years. But we'll definitely get them. Now, coming to your question about military targets and what we have achieved with it. We have very emphatically, surgically, and with resoluteness targeted 9 terrorist camps and hit them where we wanted to send a message. And thereafter, when Pakistan has reacted, despite our telling them that we do not want to escalate it, we have used the Air Force to hit them at their airfields. And if it had gone beyond, we would have hit them harder. So let me assure you, the message we wanted to send for the cost of the 22 terrorists who had died, we have done it. Very emphatically. Now that's a tragedy that in Pakistan, whatever you do, the Akas or the bosses of Pakistan will always upgrade themselves. Who can stop Asif Munir from becoming a field marshal or maybe higher if there is a rank? They can bestow anything on them and declare victory when there is total defeat. That is what I'll say.
But have we, General Bhatt, sent a powerful enough signal for the Pakistan army to abandon its policy towards terror?
So let me assure you that what we have done in Sindoor is an emphatic message. And the other part of the message is that the operation is ongoing. And the new normal which has been set, that another terrorist act, you will again be punished. Let me tell you, it is a very strong message and it will deliver results.
Okay. Let me take then the diplomatic angle for a moment. IMF claiming, Casey, that Pakistan met its target. The loan goes ahead. In the diplomatic context, have we been able to isolate Pakistan? Have we been able to sufficiently convince the global community that Pakistan is an epicenter for terror?
Well, I think that's the battle that is on now. I have, in an article I've written in a Bombay newspaper, called it a battle of narratives. And Pakistan has always been better at marketing their narrative because they're much more approachable, much more accessible. Their prime minister is available, their senior military. Somehow we were reluctant to share information. We were reluctant to market a story. We have a story. We have a very good story. But somehow I think we've been deficient at marketing it. And that's why, and then on top of that, you got President Trump interfering. Even yesterday when the South African president is meeting him, he again brings up India, Pakistan. He's created an equivalence. And he again brings in, he's so desperate for a Nobel Prize that if there's any dispute anywhere in the world, he wants to be seen as somewhere on the sidelines of that. Though he'll do nothing much thereafter. Economist magazine put it very well. They said his problem is he wants to mediate, but he will never commit himself fully or commit his resources fully or really seriously get involved in it. And he's continuing the same semi-serious way, which is helping Pakistan. And the second thing which is happening is that Pakistan is now a non-permanent member of the Security Council from the beginning of this year till the end of 26. And that is why the delegations which have gone out, we are targeting 13 countries. There's no point sending someone to China or to Pakistan. The other 13, we are sending delegations to, because the battle is going to be there. And Pakistan will be chairing the Security Council in July, which gives it an opportunity to bring up the issue as they want, in the form they want. We can contest it, but they may bring up Indus Waters Treaty, they may bring up other things. And that is what Pakistan wanted. That's why they said they won. They didn't mean militarily they won. What they meant was and this is an old Pakistani trick. When you escalate, they start moving their nuclear weapons around. And that's when the Americans get concerned, the rest of the world gets concerned, and the Americans jumped in.
Right.
Because even a day earlier, Trump was saying that, we have nothing to do with it. Vance was saying it's none of our concerns. And then all of a sudden, we are having the American president announce that a ceasefire is available. And he did the same thing in 2019. So this is a very old game. And that's what Pakistan wanted. They wanted international attention.
So has
they wanted
Pakistan,
Kashmir.
net you're saying when it comes to the battle of narratives, at least Pakistan in this 1 month has not been fully, have we been able to neutralize that narrative, yes or no?
We are still fighting that narrative. That's why you sent out 7 delegations. And you sent them to 33 countries, not 13 countries. So you even sent to other countries. I haven't fully followed the logic of that, but they've gone to 33 countries. Essentially, you want to focus on the Security Council members. But yes, they have their narrative both in the media. We can curse the Western media, but then have you engaged the Western media? You can't be just reading out a statement. That is not briefing. You have to brief. And I've written in a newspaper today.
Casey, I take your point. I want to move on a bit. Let me bring in other Amitabh Mattu, give me your overview. Give me your overview. I put out certain pluses and minuses. 30 days later, can we say with confidence, as the Prime Minister said today, that we have sent out a tough message to Pakistan? Enough is enough. There is a new normal in place.
Thank you, Rajdeep. And I heard all the distinguished practitioners speak. So let me give an academic, more forensic, clinical view. I think there is no doubt that in terms of the strikes within Pakistan, deep within Pakistan and Pakistan occupied Kashmir, we have crossed a Rubicon. We demonstrated that an attack of a terrorist attack on Jammu and Kashmir will invite a response so that Pakistan Army, its proxies, the terrorists feel the cost. The question is this now going to deter the Pakistani Army and its proxies from indulging in the barbaric acts like they did in Pahalgam? The proof of the pudding will be in the eating. Only time can tell. No one can. The illogic or the logic of deterrence is that you only know when it fails. If I was a Pakistani rational policymaker, I would be deterred. Then Pakistan, however, is not a rational state. And you cannot always assume that there will be a careful cost-benefit analysis in its policies. The second question, was there an intelligence failure? Of course there was. I think, for one, New Delhi and Srinagar relied far too much on electronic intelligence, with the result that the human element, what I call the civil security grid, had become marginal to your intelligence operations. Secondly, we did not actually anticipate that tourists would be attacked, that tourists who are soft targets, who invite really the worst kind of response from public opinion, would be targeted in this fashion. We hadn't anticipated that, and we didn't have the human intelligence on the ground. These are battle-hardened terrorists. I agree with what Khoda Saab has said. They have a short shelf life, and I'm sure they will be neutralized. But it is important to recognize that if we have to prevent another Pahalgam, we need to strengthen our infrastructure. Diplomatically, of course, with Donald Trump in the White House, all bets are off. There are no reasonable, rational calculations, again, which can determine how Trump will respond. So on the table are numerous theories on why Pakistan seems to have got the bailout from IMF. Why does Pakistan seem to have a responsive voice? From the fact that Pakistan has a stronger lobbyist, to the point that Pakistan seems to have bought into crypto, which is, as you know, seen as often as a front for the Trump family's fortunes. So there are various explanations. India,
Right,
as a democracy, hopes that its story will sell for itself. It's a victim. And unfortunately, in this world of fast-moving narratives, it's not the simple narrative which most people absorb. They just want to find a more deeper story, which unfortunately often India is not able to communicate with the same kind of quickness and cunning as Pakistan's media managers seem to do. Whether it is right or wrong to send all
right.
these delegations, at least the message is that India stands united, and across the party divide, we are speaking in one voice.
That's a pretty comprehensive view you've given us there, Professor Mattu. But I want to pick up on one of those points which is troubling. We need to fix accountability. This program is being done 1 month after Pahalgam. And I think it is important to know, is accountability being fixed? Pulwama 2019, we are not sure whether accountability was fixed, Mr. Khoda. Now, even at the Jammu and Kashmir police level, at the level of intelligence, at the level of the unified command, at the level of the LG, whose office is in charge, no one is removed. After 2008, the Home Minister of the country was removed. The Chief Minister of Maharashtra resigned. It seems has accountability been fixed? Should this question not be asked, Mr. Khoda? Will accountability be fixed for the lapses in Pahalgam, a major security lapse?
Rajdeep, I'm sure that there'll be quite a bit of post-mortem as to why this incident happened and how it can be prevented in future. You referred to Pulwama incident.
But should heads not roll? Should heads not roll, Mr. Khoda?
No,
heads are rolling.
I'm coming to that. Post Pulwama incident in 2019, one DYSP of ours was found to be involved indirectly in the form of aiding and abetting terrorists, providing them some logistic support. He was arrested, he was dismissed from service, and he's still in prison. He's facing the trial. So it's not that the accountability is not fixed. Probably it will not be made out in open. But measures are taken. Everything is considered. With every operation or with every incident, we try to find out how it can be refined further. And
Right.
but one thing is very I want to underline is that we have to take human intelligence to slightly higher levels, because we are trying to relegate it to background and depending more on technical intelligence. The human intelligence is very important. Technical intelligence gives you overall view of
But
the happening.
I think you make an important point that human intelligence somewhere, and the other point which many people are making, General Bhatt, is what about the unified command? You see, the unified command has to ensure coordination at every level in a state like Jammu and Kashmir. And there's a feeling that somewhere there have been weaknesses in the system that we are not willing to acknowledge. Do you believe post Pahalgam there is enough attention on that we need to have a unified command that is functioning effectively under leadership? You need to fix the gaps in the system.
So, well, let me assure you, the security forces there will go to the depth of it, find out what were the faults, take necessary corrections, and if necessary, heads will roll. Not to worry about that. That is not important today. What is important is, yes, to get the lessons right and to correct them. And
so what is the biggest lesson, General Bhatt, according to you? What is the biggest lesson?
Let me assure you, DGP Khoda has been there. I was a young officer and later as a corps commander. The best coordination amongst security forces is there in Srinagar, 15 Corps. I'm proud of it. As a corps commander, I thought that was the hallmark of my command there, and it has carried on.
Okay.
Yes, if things have, you have to realize one thing. Tourists have been going there and the number has been increasing manifold. Yes, maybe that has brought our sights down because we assumed, and that was an assumption which has gone wrong, that they will never attack the tourists. Well, they have done that.
So you're saying that we've been shaken off in a way out of our complacency. Possibly
we have learned a lesson.
We've learned a lesson, you're saying. Okay. Have we learned any lesson very quickly, KC Singh, diplomatically? Is there a lesson that we need to learn in particular to counter Pakistan narratives early enough that we are the victim, not the perpetrator?
Rajiv, may I say a thing about counterterrorism? As you know, I was coordinator counterterrorism of the MEA for 2 years. I led the first 2 delegations discussing counterterrorism with Pakistan. Look, counterterrorism has multiple dimensions. And I think what we did, one of the cardinal things the 9/11 report of the US says is information is always available. They knew that there are Arabs trying to fly planes, trying to learn how to fly planes in America. But then as the report says, it was a lack of imagination. You don't know how this may come into practice. Second thing is, no counterterrorism works until you reach out to the minds and the hearts of the people. I think we reached a certain smug level where we thought 370 is done. It's a union territory. Governor's rule, president's rule is there. Right. We've just held the elections, but it's still a union territory. Have we really made a serious attempt to reach out to the minds and hearts of the people? Because that is where the terrorists are recruited. It's not in thin air that terrorism arrives. So it's a multi-level approach. When you say accountability, it can't be just of the police or the intelligence officer. It's of the entire system. And I think till we understand that, you'll not be able to counter Pakistan.
Can I just take your point about winning hearts and minds to an interview I did with a pony rider in Pahalgam 2 weeks ago, and I want Amitabh Mattu to give a final quick comment on that. This was a pony rider in Pahalgam, listening to what he told me about Pahalgam's massacre. क्या नाम है आपका? राउफ
जी सर।
आप पोनी का बिजनेस है?
जी जी, घोड़े वाला हूँ मैं।
कितने घोड़े हैं आपके?
10 घोड़े।
10 घोड़े?
जी सर।
अब कोई नहीं है?
बिल्कुल खाली।
बिल्कुल खाली?
बिल्कुल खाली है सर।
पर क्या करें? बैसरन के बाद उस दिन आप कहाँ थे?
सर हम तो यही थे। ये तो मैं समझता हूँ कि शायद उन लोगों की खुशनसीबी थी कि हम लोग खुद साथ नहीं थे। खुद साथ होते तो हम लोग तो लड़ते।
आप लड़ते?
बिल्कुल लड़ते सर, और क्या।
फिर बाकी के जो घुड़सवार वो लड़े क्यों नहीं?
सर वो लोग लेबर थे, उनको नहीं पता था, वो डर गए। अगर हम जैसे मालिक रहते साथ में तो हम तो लड़ते सर, और इस चीज में तो लड़ना ही है ना सर।
तो आपके कुछ दोस्तों ने बचाया उनको, लाए वहां से पहाड़ से?
हमारे ही कलीग थे जिन लोगों ने बचाया उनको। जो हुआ वो तो उसमें तो हम लोग शर्मिंदा है। इसके आगे तो हम लोग होने नहीं देंगे, चाहे फिर हमें कोई भी करना पड़े। पहलगाम तो कहीं था ही नहीं। हम लोगों को खुद भी हैरानी हो जाती है कि जब मुझे मेरे आदमी ने फोन किया कि यहाँ फायरिंग हो रही है, मैंने उसको कहा टूरिस्ट का कहाँ है, उसने कहा मेरे साथ ही है। मैंने उसको कहा घोड़े छोड़ और उनको नीचे लेके आ जा। मुझे उस टाइम भी यकीन नहीं हुआ कि सच में भाईसरन में भी हमला हो सकता है, क्योंकि ये एरिया पीसफुल माना जाता है। जो हुआ वो बहुत ही ज्यादा गलत।
You see, people in Kashmir, Amitabh, and you know it better, are actually angry with what happened in Baisaran, want action taken against Pakistan. Pakistan has lost a lot of sympathy that it may have had earlier. Is this an opportunity to reach out to the people of Jammu and Kashmir?
The loudest message which should go from the Kashmir Valley to all the capitals where the parliamentarians are going is the huge, unequivocal, unambiguous message against violence. And the loudest message to New Delhi should be that the Kashmiris are saying again and again, not in our name. No more violence, no more terrorism in our name. You have to build on that sentiment, and that is the best way to ensure that your own
Should that include a review of statehood? Should that include a review of returning statehood, or will that happen at a later stage? Give Omar Abdullah's administration more power.
I mean, across administrations, I think the time counterintuitively when people say, oh, the situation is so fragile that you should not return to statehood, I genuinely believe now is the time. Now is the time to demonstrate that your constitution is your great strength and that you will not do anything out of fear. And so returning statehood. And also, when during an LG's administration, you couldn't prevent Pahalgam. So surely security can't be an issue for depriving people of a more empowered government elected by them. So counterintuitively, I think the Home Minister should and the Prime Minister should live to the promises that they have made in outside and inside Parliament.
Okay, let me leave it there. I've heard 4 clear voices giving us their perspective on what is a very complex issue. But 1 month later, we must raise these questions about accountability, about the way forward. It cannot only be chest thumping, it also needs to be introspection. That's the way you can ensure that we don't have another Pahalgam-like situation staring us in the face. Thank you to all my guests for joining me here on my top talking point.